You gotta kind of look at this chapter like, what the fuck? Like, it's a really emotional chapter, but it starts off with Hawk taking a shit. Like, did Nakaba think, I start very emotional chapter with pig shit. Although I ain't gonna lie, I heard a really good joke that Hawk started the chapter off with taking a fairy tale. Let me stop before people think I'm a big ass fairy tale hater. Let me stop. So I think a lot of this chapter was kind of just a lot more context to what's going on and everything. The aftermath of Fraudron's death, looking at some of the things, like pretty much Hawk is back to normal finally, which honestly, the demon Hawk thing, I'm kind of curious if that's gonna evolve into something further later on. He's normal now, but it seems as though Hawk continues to take on many different forms, so maybe he'll be like Mega Man, where, you know how Mega Man, once he grabs a foe or whatever, he can contain their powers and like use it at will. I wonder if at some given point Hawk can unlock that ability and start using whatever powers. We got the reunion of Merlin and Escanor, two of the three amazing beasts of the seven deadly sins, because at this particular point we are pretty clear that Merlin, Meliodas, and Escanor are pretty much the only three that are capable of doing anything to the Ten Commandments. Let's be clear about that. Now I gotta ask, first question, how do you feel about what Merlin said regarding Fraudron's death and he didn't deserve to die like that? Do you agree? I mean, Fraudron was, you know, a very bad guy. He did a lot of bad things, and just because he felt for a kid at the end, I get the message that, yeah, maybe he wasn't completely deserving of the most disgusting death of what Meliodas did to him, but he was a pretty big piece of shit. He's partially responsible for the return of the Ten Commandments. He's partially responsible for a lot of things that happened at Donna I don't know how to pronounce that, but you get what I'm saying. Like, he did a lot of shit, so yeah, maybe Meliodas could have been a little bit better about it, but ultimately, I think it was pushed a little too far that, yeah, he didn't deserve that death. He was a piece of shit, but it was ultimately to showcase just how much Meliodas has changed with his revival. You also see the, once again, relationship between Bon and Meliodas change, because it seemed as though up until the death of Meliodas, Bon and Meliodas were good again. Like, you know, they made up, everything was good, but once again, they're back on bad terms, and that's because I think Bon realized that Meliodas, once again, you know, can he really trust him? Because Bon already has his issues with demons, and then his best friend, he realizes, yo, this guy is a cold guy. He is a part of the demon clan, and the fact that Meliodas wasn't able to sense what his best friend was feeling, once again, was to push even further how much Meliodas has changed. And I think that this chapter was definitely signifying the change in Meliodas, how people are reacting to it, and how Meliodas himself is reacting to it. Because we find out in this chapter that he'll, of course, continue to be resurrected over and over no matter what, but every time he's resurrected, he has less and less emotion. So I'm kind of curious, prior to that death, how many times beforehand did Meliodas die? And there was a couple other things in the chapter, like, you know, Jericho's brother dead and stuff like that. I think that scene was kind of emotional in a way, where Jericho was throwing the rocks at Dreyfus and going crazy and shit like that. Like, that kind of got me a bit. Like, even though it was minor characters, like, who the fuck is Jericho's brother? And I guess he just died off screen. I don't really remember him dying, but ultimately I felt it because we were with Dreyfus and Fraudron for how many chapters now, and kind of see Jericho going off, and I love Jericho as a character. I think it was a nice scene. But the best scene, and honestly one of my favorite parts of this chapter, probably the best part of the chapter, was seeing Meliodas scared of himself, not wanting to revert back to what he used to be, and the fact that he can't feel things anymore. And you gotta love Elizabeth. Honestly, I really appreciate and adore the relationship between Meliodas and Elizabeth, that Elizabeth, no matter what, is gonna stand by his side. And she said, no matter if Bon, anyone turns their back on you, I'm gonna be there for you. And I love that. And to see Meliodas cry, I never thought I would actually see, like, because Meliodas is a pretty firm guy, but to see him right now break down because he's scared of becoming what he used to be, that was powerful. And honestly, I love this chapter. I felt as though, even though it was an aftermath chapter, even though it was just kind of understanding Meliodas' character right now and everyone's reaction to what he's ultimately becoming, I still loved it. I felt as though that was a very good to a great 8.5 to a 9, because you're seeing a really deep look at it. Because I've seen a couple of comparisons. People are comparing what's going on in Taizai right now in Seven Deadly Sins to what's going on in Fairy Tail right now, because it's kind of similar. Main character is turning into a monster, except with Seven Deadly Sins, and this is not to slight Fairy Tail, this is just my honest opinion, it's a deeper, complex version of what's going on in Fairy Tail right now. It's like, you're actually getting to see, well, how does Meliodas feel about this? What is going through his mind? Opposed to, it's just like, it's happening in Fairy Tail. And again, that's not just like Fairy Tail, it's just I'm making an honest comparison. So yeah, amazing chapter. Let me know what you guys think. First of all, do you think that there's a possibility that at some given point, Meliodas could even be the final villain and the Seven Deadly Sins got to take him down? I honestly think that, yeah, it's built building up. At some given point, he is going to become a nasty piece of shit, but ultimately I think Meliodas is going to be able to hold on to his sanity and come back. I think it's going to be, you know, typical shonen at the very least when it comes to like Meliodas won't be completely gone into the darkness. How do you feel about the relationship with Bon and Meliodas yet again, seeming that they're kind of not on, you know, similar playing fields? You know, Bon is basically like, I don't know how to feel about this. And also, how did you feel about that ending scene with Meliodas and Elizabeth? I just gotta say, I really appreciate and adore the relationship they have. And even though Elizabeth isn't a fighter, she's truly there for him in a more realistic way, because the ending, even though this is a fantasy manga and all this shit, it really feels as though it gets more deep and complex into the actual situation and into how these characters feel, opposed to just, you know, it's happening. Like, let's see how they feel, how Meliodas himself feels about turning into that monster, and seeing him cry. I really like this. And your overall thoughts of all this. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and stalk my Facebook to get more when the video ends. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day.